Well, the Dow failing to finish in the green as investors are still waiting for tomorrow's jobs report. That's what it's all about. It's a wait game. Let's bring in our market panel. Scott Martin from Kingsview Asset Management. He is also Fox News contributor, and Lenore Hawkins from Meritus Advisors. Lenore, let me go to you first, because the news of the morning was what they did over in England. After 7 years of keeping rates about the same, it seems like they're getting stuck in the same magic of what the central bank can do. They're lowering rates, really stimulating from a monetary perspective. What's going on there?
Well, you've got the same kind of paralysis there that we have in much of the developed world, where fiscal policies just aren't happening. There's a lot of infighting with all the fiscal side, so you can't get the government to really do anything other than print money. And you can see with the amount of cash that was starting to rise outside of the system, just how much people were anticipating this move.
Yeah, well, Scott, the fact is there's one place, at least in the developed world over there in Europe, which is doing quite well. That's Ireland. Ireland had a GDP growth of 26%. How? Not by the smoke and mirrors of central banks, but in the old-fashioned way. They lowered tax rates tremendously. They lowered regulations, barriers to growth for businesses, and they're doing spectacularly well.
Yes, once again, the Celtic Tiger, I guess, David. But, you know, that's one of the outliers, though. I mean, you look around to the North Point.
You're missing a point here, Scott, which is they're doing it the old-fashioned way. They're succeeding. All the other economies of Europe are having flat growth or negative growth. The one country that's really taking off GNP is the one who's doing fiscally what Lenore says you got to do.
Well, that's fair, David. Now, from your lips to the politicians' ears, which might be a lot to expect, but I will tell you this much. The politicians are letting the central banks carry the water for now, which is a terrible mistake because, like we saw with the Bank of England, like we've seen with our Fed, like we've seen with the ECB, which are now, besides the U.S. Fed, buying corporate bonds alongside treasuries, which is terribly long-term dangerous.
Hey, guys,
that's hold on
one second. We've got some earnings out. LinkedIn is out with second quarter results. Lori has the numbers. Go ahead, Lori.
Hi there, David. All right, so it's a beat top and bottom line for LinkedIn. $1.13 per share versus the Wall Street estimate of 78 cents a share on $933 million in revenue. $898.3 million in revenue was the expectation. Now, as we were just discussing, LinkedIn agreed to be purchased from Microsoft for $26.2 billion. And the first line from the company, from LinkedIn, as part of its earnings release is, as a result of this deal, they're not going to give their financial guidance. So we just have the most recent quarter. We don't have, as you know, many other companies do give the next quarter or even full year guidance. So we don't have that for LinkedIn. And I believe as a result, that's why we're not seeing a whole lot of movement in shares of LinkedIn here in the extended session. It looks like they're just up about 10 cents a share. So revenue increased 31%. Hiring through $535 million. That's in revenue. So that's a 26% year-over-year improvement. In terms of membership, they did see an increase, this is LinkedIn, of course, of 18% to 450 million people. So some improving numbers there. We're seeing growth for LinkedIn. Back to you.
Lori, thanks very much. Email.
All right. Nike announcing that it will stop making golf clubs and golf balls. The company saying it is still committed to being the undisputed leader in golf apparel and also footwear. This comes as sales for the Nike's golf unit fell 8% in the past year. Scott and Lenore are back. You know, Scott, the golf unit at Nike was its worst performer. We've got, it looks like Callaway picking up the slack here. What do you think of this action happening at Nike, Scott?
Yeah, you know, Callaway and TaylorMade, EMAC, have been the leaders in this space as far as the equipment for many years, and they've kind of stayed there. Now, the problem with the equipment is, frankly, the market is super saturated with it, so Nike couldn't break in there. But they're smart to focus more on apparel and things like shoes and clothing, because nobody likes it better than when you're shanking drives or blowing putts, looking good doing it, and there's good margin in those products. I like what they're doing here.
Interesting. Here's the thing, Lenore. Do you think it has to do with the, the downfall of Tiger Woods in his career? What do you think?
Absolutely. This is almost exclusively a Tiger Woods story. Now, granted, the golf industry is having a really tough time over the past 15 years. We've seen nearly a 20% drop in people who are actively playing. But the big thing for Nike was always Tiger. You know, he was the perfect marketing machine, and he kind of fell off the wagon.
Yeah, good point. Thank you, Scott and Lenore. Let's head back to Lori Rothman, Kraft Heinz, reporting second quarter results. Lori, how'd they do?
Hi there, EMAC. All right, so it looks like it is a beat on the bottom line. Earnings per share coming in at 85 cents per share versus the 72 cents a share expectation. That, of course, is the adjusted number, so that excludes certain items. And revenue is right in line, $6.79 billion. Now, shares of Kraft Heinz are up nearly 3% here in the extended session, and that is likely because Kraft Heinz is also announcing it's bumping up its dividend by about 4.3% to 60 cents per share. That's what I've got on Kraft right now.
Right. Thank you, Lori. Revenue's
That'll
up
help.
50% there. Thank you so much, Lori. Really appreciate it.